So guys, welcome back to a new video. Obviously, if you've not already hit the subscribe button, hit the subscribe button before we already start. Right, so today I want to film something slightly different, which I've saw a lot of other YouTubers film as well. And it seems to do quite well on the YouTube, and I thought, oh my god, there's a bug. Okay, so I wanted to film something slightly different. How many cars I've had and owned since I passed my test when I was 17 years old. Now, you may notice I am on holiday right now, and you might be thinking, what's a video holiday? Now, like, my brain doesn't work like that. I just, like, have spare time. I think, what can I do with the spare time? Film a video, that's what I'm going to do. And I believe that hard work beats talent every day of the week. So if you put as much time and effort into something, then it will eventually work. So guys, let's start this video off. So when I was 17, I did the driving test as usual, passed my test first time, passed my theory first time. So let's move on to the first car that I bought. And it was a Ford Fiesta. I mean, at the time when I passed my test, all I wanted to do was drive. And I sort of passed my test and realised then I've got to buy a car and I've got to pay for insurance. I don't think I even I did have a job. I was a pot washer back then, and I earned about £200, £300 a month. Which you can imagine, wouldn't even be able to afford a car, I wouldn't be able to afford insurance, and I couldn't even barely fund anything really. So I had to save up, and I think we had a deal. I had a deal with my dad, where my dad would buy me my first car and I'd pay for the insurance, or the other way round. I can't really remember how I did it. But basically, so my first car was this Ford Fiesta. It was a 1.1 litre, yeah. It was £200, and it was one of my dad's customers' cars. It cost me 1,500 quid to insure.
You played yourself.
This little red Fiesta literally turned into the biggest rice bucket ever. I got the car. I was obviously really into cars anyway when I got it, but I just wanted to drive it around first. So I remember just driving it around, everything. All my friends had cars as well. I remember mine was the slowest car out of all of them. So what we did, I decided to, I really like Volkswagens and everything at the time. I like the Euro look, I like decking the cars low. So what we did, the first modification we did on that is, because obviously as well I was a pot washer and I had barely any money, all the modifications were super cheap. So what we decided to do is get an angle grinder and chop the spring. No! God. Now I actually chopped the springs to the point where I had 2 coils left on the spring on the rear, and probably about 3 coils left on the front of the spring, so the car was absolutely decked. I then bought 13-inch Ford Capri wheels. I hope I can find a picture of this car because it was actually such a sick car. I then bought Ford Capri 13-inch wheels, put them on it, and I had no arch gap. So you can imagine with 13-inch wheels and no arch gap how low the Fiesta was to the floor. Then red was not obviously a favourable colour, as well as it being like a really old car. The red was sort of faded. So one day, I wish I was doing YouTube back then, because you guys would have loved this sort of stuff. So one day we went to Halfords. I think I bought must have been about 25, at least 25 matte black spray cans from Halfords, and we went on my friend's drive. We taped up all the windscreen and everything and put covers over the wheels, and we just sprayed the whole car. We sprayed the whole car matte black. What did I do to it then? Like, I then went to Mr. Tyre and we cut out the whole part. I think I was having problems with the catalytic converter, it was getting blocked. So we cut out the catalytic converter, we hollowed that out ourselves, and then we straight piped it all the way back. And my dad had an old bike back box, you know, like an actual motorbike back box, and me thinking like that this is what would happen if I put a bike back box on it. It would actually sound like a motorbike. No. It sounded raspy as anything. It sounded almost like a Honda. So I had that car, but actual running wise, it was a mint car. Like, it literally just ran and ran. Oh yeah, I also bought Recaro seats, which were out of a Capri. I put them in the front as well. I put LEDs in the footwell. I changed the steering wheel. I did so many things to that car. Literally every single bolt and nut had been taken off and put back on. Car number 2. So after a while of having the Fiesta, I really liked Volkswagen, and I think at the time, well, it's still a thing. It was like real trendy to have like a Volkswagen, old Volkswagen car, absolutely slam it, put like BBS wheels on it, everything like that. So I really wanted a Volkswagen Lupo, and the Lupo Sport was like the pinnacle, and also the Lupo GTR, but that was way out of my price range. But a Lupo Sport was like the pinnacle of like cars for me, and I really wanted one. I think I had the Fiesta for like literally a year, and that was it. So it was coming up, I was coming up to be 18, and I was looking on eBay, everything. I then found this perfect black little Lupo 1.4. It wasn't the Sport, but that didn't matter. I just wanted the Lupo. I bought this Lupo, and I had it, I think, about a couple of weeks. I was loving it, driving it around, little car, like my first little Volkswagen. I remember the interior feeling amazing compared to the Ford Fiesta I had. And I think after about 2 weeks of having it, and it was a common problem on those cars, the gearbox went. When we had it up in the ramps, we found there was like a little bodge job. There would have been another gearbox which had been put into it, but it was a wrong gearbox, so the gear linkage didn't line up correctly with the new gearbox that I put in, and it wasn't, we found out the actual gearbox wasn't gone, it was just the gear linkage, their little bodge job they made had snapped off, so I couldn't select any gears. So the only option we had was either replace the gearbox, which would be an absolute ball ache and expensive, or fix their little bodge job that they made. So we had to fix the little bodge job we made, and I constantly kept having problems with this little gear linkage thing, and I think the people I bought it off obviously knew that this problem was happening. The story of that one is I was driving to work one day, and there was so much traffic going down this hill, and there was a traffic coming up the hill as well. So I decided it was quicker for me to turn around and go the other way. So I went to pull on someone's drive. I was coming down the hill, I'm turning to go on someone's drive, and the opposing traffic coming the other way, the woman stopped and flashing me to let me go. So I was coming to pull on someone's drive, and there was a motorbike undertaking all the oncoming traffic the other way, and as I was pulling onto the drive, the motorbike just swacked straight into the side of my Lupo. He went flying, he pulled my wipers out, everything. But we got out of the car, he was okay, his bike was written off, my side of my Lupo was absolutely smashed in, the wheel was bent, everything was just fully bent. Am I going to afford to repair this car, or I'm going to have to claim through insurance, or I don't really know what I was going to do. I was thinking the whole time, which brings me on to the third car. So I hope I can find pictures of all these cars as well. So the third car, my dad had the car at his garage, the Lupo, which was smashed up. I was thinking we'd come home and we're just going to repair it and get some parts off eBay and just repair the whole thing, little project between me and my dad. I got home, I opened a birthday card from my dad, and inside it had a Lupo key in it. I'm thinking, what the hell, my dad's already repaired the car when I got back. I thought, he's repaired the car, my car's fine, I'm going to be able to drive it. He says, oh, go look outside. So I walk outside, I go have a look, and there was a fucking Lupo Sport on the driveway. He'd actually gone out on that weekend and bought me a Lupo Sport, so shout out to my dad, that was actually a sick move of him. He thought it was not worth repairing the old Lupo I had. He says what he could try and do is break the old Lupo, so just break it in parts, because I remember all the Volkswagen parts, people are always looking for them and everything. So in the end, what I tried to do, I put it online for sale, and like for all breaking, and some guy actually wanted to come and take the whole car off me, like as it was, and I think he actually bought it off me for £600 as it was. Then I had this Lupo Sport, which became a project and one of my favourite cars I actually owned. So I did the same thing. I did buy coilovers for it, so I bought some coilovers for it, I wound them all the way to the floor, and I had the Lupo like as low as I could get it. And I then bought BBS replicas with, I remember they were black, and they have like a silver lip around the outside. I know I've got a photo of this somewhere, so let's insert that photo. It was black, it was sick. I then remember splitting the headlights out, spraying the inside of the headlights black, putting them back in. I put LEDs in the footwell. I put a sub in the back of the boot. Hopefully I can find that photo. I put a sub in the back of the boot, but that was a sick car. And what actually happened to that car? What happened to that car? What happened to the Lupo? No, I crashed the first one. Yeah. Oh, I know what I did. Yeah, so the Lupo, I think I just got bored of it. And wanted a new car. So yeah, the Lupo then ended. Like that was it. I was like saved up again. I then wanted to buy a Seat Ibiza. Coming on to now, my fourth car, I then bought a Seat Ibiza. Then was trying to sell my Lupo. I remember the Lupo, it had about 150,000 miles on the clock back then, and it sat on my dad's driveway for about 3 weeks not being drove, and I was trying to sell it online. Eventually, one guy from Wolverhampton came down to buy the Lupo, and when he came down to buy it, the car had not been started up or driven in such a long time. I should have warmed it up before he came, but he started it, the key, he goes, oh, can I just take it on a test drive? It's mint, I love it, whatever, it's taken really nice care of. I kept the car exactly how it was, like lowered and everything. He took it up the road, and I remember him, I was sitting in the passenger seat, and I remember him absolutely thrashing it. Then the oil light came on, he came back, it lost loads of power, and when we pulled back into my dad's driveway, it was dead tappity, like, and then it just cut out. I was thinking, what the hell, what? It's never done that before. We opened the bonnet and the fucking cam belt had snapped, so the oil must have been sitting at the bottom of the engine for so long. He'd started it up, it starved the top of the engine full of oil, which has seized the whole engine, which then caused the top cams to seize up and snap the cam belt, and the whole cam belt was snapped. I was thinking, what the hell? I tried to make him pay for it. He was like, no, I don't want it anymore, mate. Like, I don't want it. And literally, I remember getting in his car and getting off. I remember I put it up for sale for £600, and the cam belt had gone. The cam belt had slipped, well, snapped, and he got in his car and just drove off. So then I was left with a car with a snapped cam belt, a knackered engine, just left on my dad's driveway. Thinking, what the hell? Thinking, what the hell am I going to do with that now? Like, it's round two of selling a broken Lupo. But eventually, I think I put it up for sale as spares or repairs or break-in, cam belt snap, and somebody actually came with their girlfriend to the car and they bought it for £400 with the engine completely, like the cam belt absolutely snapped and the mileage it was on. He said he was going to put a new engine in it and everything, but £400 he bought that Lupo for, and he trailered it all the way back to, I remember it being miles away where he was going, and his girlfriend was sitting in the Lupo and he was towing his girlfriend, and that must have been the longest tow ride ever. God knows where that is now, but that was a sick car. That gave me good times. But now I moved on to the Seat Ibiza, which is the fourth car. I did exactly the same thing to that. I put it on coilovers, I lowered it to the absolute floor, I put some wide white BBSs with chrome lips around the outside. I remember the backs being wider than the front. That was again a sick car. I'll insert a photo of it. Really good car. I kept that car for I think a little bit longer, maybe a year, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Which then brings me on to car number 5. So car number 5, I remember I wanted a bigger car. I was doing a lot more travelling with a BMX. So I remember looking at all these different cars and everything, and I don't know why, but I really liked Ford Focuses at the time, and I wanted them to look like an ST. So we ended up finding this Ford Focus, which was, I remember exactly, it was £2,300, and it had a knackered turbo, and it was a 2006 Ford Focus, 1.6 turbo with a Peugeot engine they have, and if I knew about it now, then I never would have bought it. But turns out once the turbo's gone on those engines, then they go forever. Like, you repair them, there's all metal shards in the engine and everything, and you just can't clear them out. Like, you might as well just scrap it, because they're so hard to sort of repair once the turbo's gone. So anyway, bought this with a knackered turbo. We replaced the internals of the turbo, put it all together, drove fine for about a couple of months. Like, I did like it. I think I only have one photo of this car, and then I was driving along the road and the turbo just completely went again. It went phew! No power, nothing. But because we replaced the internals of the turbo the first time, I knew exactly what we needed to do, and I think it only cost about £100 to replace the internals of the turbo. So drained the oil out, changed the oil pickup pipe, did all the bits and bobs to change the turbo, took the turbo apart, changed the cartridge in the turbo, got it back on the road again, running, again for about another month or so, and the turbo went again. So I was then thinking, the second time the turbo went, I think this is just going to constantly happen. and it's going to happen at the wrong time at some point where I'm driving to the airport, I need to get a plane and the turbo goes or something like that. So I could not rely on that car, and I hate driving a car that you think is going to break down or not start up all the time. So I decided, right, this is going to be the last time I've replaced the turbo, and I'm just going to sell it. So what I did, I replaced the turbo again for the final and last time, put it straight up for sale, and some young lads bought it, and God knows what happened to that car now. Again, probably in the scrapyard. So guys, car number 6, I then bought an Audi A4 S-Line 2-litre TDI, which was actually one of the best cars I've owned. It was such a sick car. I think I bought it on about 70,000 odd miles. I went to Germany in it, went abroad to competitions in it, literally drove it everywhere. I've racked up the miles in it, and then the modifications I did to that, actually did quite a few. So I bought 19-inch Audi alloys for it, similar to the ones that are on the TT right now, so I wanted to make it sort of look like an RS4. I then put it on coilovers. Again, they were wound pretty much to the floor. I changed the headlights in them, made them like a darker headlight. I didn't have a plate on the front. I was going to change the grille, but never got around to doing it. I changed the interior to leather interior because it didn't have leather. It was the cloth interior, so I changed it to like the S4 leather interior. I de-chromed it, so all of the chrome trims around the window, they were all de-chromed. The chrome trims around the back, they were all de-chromed. Oh, that's it. I had it remapped as well. I had the car remapped, so I think for standard they're like 140 brake. I think we got it to like 180 or 190 bhp or something. But it was actually all right car. Like, that car was sick, and I sold it at 140,000 miles. I had that car 2 or 3 years. I'm losing track. So I had that car for 2 or 3 years, and that was a sick car. It allowed me to save so much money because it was so reliable. So yeah, car number 6. You guys obviously know from watching my previous videos, I don't like to finance cars just because of the loss it makes, and sort of at the time I've got my mindset on buying houses and sort of renovating them, and that's what I wanted to get into. And I know by financing a car, it's going to sort of set me back in my tracks of buying houses and stuff. So I knew I had to have a nice car. I had to save like hard-earned cash, and I then wanted a 3-litre V6. So I was looking a diesel one because I had the 2-litre A4, and I keep seeing these 3-litre V6 drive around, and they sound real quiet like a petrol engine, but they're fast, they've got a lot of torque, and you can remap them and make them real quick. So I was looking at the A5 3-litre TDI, and then I came across the Mercedes E350 Coupe, which is the one I actually went for. Think about that, cost about £13,000 or £12,900. I think we got it for when we managed to knock them down. And I went for that over the A5 because I thought you got a lot more for your money. And also, from the A4 to the A5, I thought it was too much of a similar car. I was changing from a saloon to a coupe, just going from a 2-litre to a 3-litre, but the interior is really similar, and I didn't want to get bored of it real quick and end up like buying a new car after a year. So I got the Mercedes E350, which I absolutely love. And you guys, if you've seen, this is when I sort of started YouTube with the E350. If you guys seen all the videos on that, go back and watch a few of them and all the stuff I've done to that. You'll be able to see a lot of the stuff. I lowered it on I-back springs, I put C63 alloys on it, I changed the grille on it. So after having the E350, which was like literally one of the best cars that I had, and I really like that car, and I will probably get another Mercedes maybe after this, but then an opportunity came up where I could get another car and save myself a lot of money. Which brings me on to, I think we're on car number 7. If I'm wrong, then I'll just put a little link, or I'll put a little writing to say what car I'm on. But which brings me on to the last and final car at the minute. Well, my car so far, I'm now 25 years old. I've had all those different cars. I've spent so much money on them, but like a lot of money wasted, to be honest. I wish I just kept one car. And my advice to anybody who's watching this, who's young, who's like 17 or whatever, you want to save up for a house and you've got sort of like big ambitions or business plans or anything like that, I would myself, like if I were to go back, I would say to myself, look, stick with your first car for a longer time, save some money, put some money in something which is more of an investment, like a house or something like that, and then once you've got the house, then get your car, get your nice car, because the cars are always going to devalue unless you're buying something more supercar, higher value range, which is potentially what I'm looking at next. the Audi TT came up, which was my girlfriend's car, which she managed to crash, so that got written off. She got paid out from the insurance. I bought it back off the insurance. Was it £600? Yeah. I bought it back off the insurance for £600 and thought, well, I could fix this up, make it sort of into a project and do sort of like a little YouTube project with it as well, and save myself a lot of money with it. So from then on, it's a story which is on my YouTube. I don't need to explain what I've done to the TT because it is like endless amount of lists. I mean, it's obviously lowered, wrapped, different wheels, spoiler. But if you want to go and watch the videos on the TT, they're all in the top right hand corner. I'm still searching for that other house I'm going to buy, another little renovation project, which is going to be another series on the channel you may have already known from the previous video that I told you in. But guys, hopefully you've liked this video and hopefully you've enjoyed hearing about my different history of cars and what I would have changed and what I would have not changed and all the modifications on them. Quite a different video, a lot of talking involved. If you made it this far, big respect to you guys. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button. Make sure you click the subscribe button before I leave. We'll see you in the next video. Peace out.